really glad to be up here. Thank you to Mission Ridge and the Wenatchee World. They co-sponsored this event to kind of start bringing this community together, start these types of conversation. This is also part of the Our Valley, Our Future project that has been going on for quite a while now. It's getting a lot of momentum, and really glad to have these young individuals up here and really great leaders tap into their potential, ask them some questions as to how can current leaders better assist young individuals with leadership potential, and what did they do in order to get to where they're at now with their career or endeavor, anything that they've actually been able to achieve and take over. So we'll dive into those types of questions. We have Myra Navarro. She works at through the Eastmont School District, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. And then we have Amy, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And where do you work at, Amy?
I work at Regency as a licensed nurse in the Valley. It's a skilled nursing facility. I'm also continuing on nursing school and getting my RN currently. And I'm also a patroller up here.
Patroller, cool. Okay, cool. And then we have Connor, who also works up here, right?
Yeah, I do. I'm a train park assistant up here, running the train parking in the summertime. I'm in the bicycle business. You can get me from there.
Okay, cool. Well, welcome everybody. So we will be diving right into some key questions to try to get some practical insights as to what can we actually do. So we'll try to get as practical as possible, very actionable tips or advice or any insights that we can glean from these young individuals. So let's start with you, Myra, since you're right next to me.
Lucky me.
Right. So how was your experience like with reaching out to the community, to current community leaders? What was that like, and what did you do when you were first started to get more involved and reaching out?
Well, a little background. I do youth ministry for our local church in our community, and I also work with other churches on just helping our youth be a part of the community and volunteer and be a support to different entities like Bonaventure, Grace House, and Hospitality House. And so really, for me, what helped foster this leadership opportunity was having positive role models. And really, it started in elementary school, having role models that would see the potential in me and the potential in other students, and really motivate them to continue working on it.
Yeah, for sure. And a little bit of background, Myra and I actually went to Orondo Elementary, and we're actually around the same grade.
Graduation.
A little bit ironic that we're up here sharing the stage coming from a very, very small town. But I mean, we feel truly grateful to come from a small town with really great teachers, really great role models that really gave us the attention, the support, everything. I mean, we had all the pieces. Now looking back, we truly feel grateful for that opportunity. We don't really know how good you have it until you're out of that system and that environment, and you realize, wow, not everybody gets to grow up like that and gets to have those really impactful teachers that really care and take the time to support you and make sure that you're getting everything that you need and that you're really learning and what to dream about and what can they do to support those dreams. So what about you, Aiden? What's kind of a little bit about your background about as far as kind of reaching out to the community, getting involved? I know you've been pretty involved with the medical field. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I started patrolling up here when I was a sophomore in high school, and that was kind of the beginning of my leadership experience. It was kind of really sink or swim for me. I really had to step up as being that young, being in some really intense situations and really having to take care of some sick individuals as a volunteer patroller up here. Then I got asked to become part of the professional patrol team. It was a really great experience. I was one of the youngest patrollers that's ever been a patroller up at Mission Ridge. Met a lot of really good leaders that I looked up to, such as Delcy and Jim Jack and a lot of other people like that, you know, they kind of cultivated a really good sense of leadership in me. And then that kind of just fueled me wanting to go further into the medical field. I got my EMT, so I got some more EMT experience up here, and it just kind of made me realize that I wanted to continue in the medical field. So I went to Wenatchee Valley College, got my prereqs done, and I met a lot of really good professors that I saw had some really good leadership qualities that I liked as well. And then in the nursing program, I had a lot of nurses that I looked up to. That's kind of my background, leader.
Cool. Thank you, Aiden. And Connor, do you want to share your experience and leadership?
Yeah, kind of similar to Aiden, I gained a lot of leadership experience just from working up here for the last 6 years, kind of co-managing the terrain park and dealing with that. But we've been in the community for, 21 years now, so been pretty involved just through, community events, school, kind of the normal stuff. But as far as leadership goes, I really started taking a lot more serious look at it almost 2 years ago. I lost my father, and that really kind of changed my perspective on things. So I've been kind of studying leadership and business and management kind of ever since then. Probably coming up on 2 years now. So, yeah.
Cool. Thank you for sharing. And Myra, turning it back to you, what's something practical that current community leaders, what can they do to help foster this relationship and help foster this young leadership potential and further develop them? Because right now current leaders are starting to phase out, retiring, baby boomers, whatever the case may be, and we need some fresh young blood in those key leadership positions. What advice can they do what advice do you have for them that they could do?
Looking at the East Long School District and how they foster leadership, I think that's key. Everyone from our superintendent, principals, teachers, when they see the potential, again, it goes back to that potential or maybe just that spark or that interest in a person, making sure that you foster that and you feed it and you tell them, this is a good book that you can read that maybe would help you continue to learn more about what it is that you want to do in the future. And when I think of leadership, I don't think of just with people in positions like principals or assistant principals or directors of programs. I think of people in the community that, are working in agricultural jobs that are bringing people together and really uniting people and are committed to a movement or a plan or a goal. So just reminding them to continue to motivate people, but the young leaders, I feel like, we're anxious to get stuff done. We're anxious to just, get it done. And I feel like teaching each other and working with our older group, not elderly, but working with our older group on teaching us those skills, because I feel like, we're the type that we want to get stuff done, and we have this idea of it's now, and we have to learn to be patient and learn to do things that everybody else is right. I feel like oftentimes we just have to feed off of each other and work together. I really feel like in the educational system we think of, it takes a village. It really does take a village. So working together and making sure that we're feeding that interest in our future leaders.
Yes, I completely agree with that. Do you have anything to add to that?
I think just giving the younger generation an opportunity to learn things and to be in leadership roles. I was lucky enough, like I said, to be up here where Josh and Tess and my managers, they wanted me to lead. They gave me the opportunity to learn more about leadership, and that cultivated my want and my need to become a better leader in life. So just giving the younger generation an opportunity is what I would have to say.
And Collins?
I'd say, some of the leadership issues pertaining to the lack of leaders or lack of young leaders, I'd say is a little bit born out of our current management model, our current leadership model. There's kind of no easy way to say it, but in most firms or in most businesses, there are some people that make decisions, and there are a lot of people that have nothing to do with the decisions. And basically that creates a culture of some leaders, a lot of people that don't want to have a voice, don't really care. I just want to kind of be passive, but at the same time they really don't. You can't be happy in life if you don't have a little bit of control. So I'd say we have to kind of examine our current model, but also going forward recognize, the young people in positions that are, creating a lot of revenue for the business or doing a lot of good that just aren't in the traditional leadership role. And they may be really smart, have great ideas, earning a ton of money for their particular business or firm, but for whatever reason that's not a leadership role, they're just a worker. So I think part of the issue is that kind of system. So I would say a focus on that, focus on a kind of a more horizontal workplace rather than a vertical workplace. That would be my solution or my suggestion.
Okay, thank you for that. And you talked about a traditional leadership, a traditional leader. How are young leaders different than the traditional leaders currently that we see in the community, Maya? What do you think about that?
Well, I think of you, and I think of myself, and I think of the fact that our community is fostering that opportunity for diverse members to really step up and show how they can be a positive, they can have a positive impact within the community. So really, making sure that we continue to look at, be culturally sensitive, but at the same time, trying to build those relationships and understanding of what are the needs of our community, really? What are the needs of our community and who has the skills to support those needs, And again, it comes back to this community effort and having those head people and looking for the person that is willing to do that job. We always have, in leadership, we have all these plans and these improvement plans, and we have these action steps, and this is what's going to happen, these are the timelines. But remembering that we have to have those people that are willing. And we have great people with lots of strengths within our corporations, businesses, and schools. But again, going back to who's willing to do it, who has the skill to do it, and positively impacting them and showing them and giving them affirmation to what their skills are.
And is there anything particular that you needed when you were starting out? What did you need in order for that?
I needed a good mentor, or two, or three, or four. And in my district, I've had, honestly, guys, my superintendent, Barn Christensen, every principal within my school has been mentors that helped me grow, in the youth ministry realm, being able to have other youth ministers within our community. I think of the East Mount Baptist Church. I've had been able to learn a lot from them there. So, just reaching out and having that support, that mentorship with people that you can just call and say, hey, I really don't know how to do this, and knowing that it's okay to not know, but knowing that there's lots of people out there that can help you.
Yes, I second that completely because, my life has completely transformed and changed because of mentors from Jesus Hernandez to Rufus Woods. There's countless other people that I would never even have this opportunity if it wouldn't have been for these mentors. There's just a completely different type of learning when you're learning from a mentor directly, and that can be learned from a book. It can be learned any other potential way, I believe. So getting that mentor however you can. Not sure if you guys have any ideas as far as how does somebody get a mentor? Do you guys have any other input? This could be for either three of you.
I think that just making yourself known to the community and meeting as many people and doing things like this event to build connections with the community, and especially when you're going to look for jobs in a leadership role, just having people knowing your name, people knowing what you've done, I think that's the best way to find mentors. And I mean, most of the time you find mentors in either where you're going to school or you're getting educated or in your workplace. So just building those connections and meeting people to become those mentors.
Do you have anything to add?
Yes, strong mentors and leaders are definitely very important. Play a big role in all of our lives up here. But as far as a solution to get more mentors to young people, I don't know if I exactly have a solution there.
Yeah, it's a tough one, and I mean, I constantly read different, articles and different ways and talk about how important it is to a mentor, but it's a different challenge to actually how to get one. For me, it was just a random email. I just thought, who can I think of the top of my head that is involved with the community? I thought about boards and city council and the school board. So that's how I just randomly emailed Jesus Hernandez. Hey, I'm looking to get more involved. What can I do? And it's a matter of asking the right questions. And I met with him a few months ago. I was like, why did you help me? Why did you do that? And I mean, that's not something that he has to do. It's not in his job description as a school board member. So why did he do it? And he simply said, you were asking the right questions. So that the quality of your questions really truly determine where you're going to head in life. So the higher quality, the better you're going to be at. Anything else? Okay.
Just doing your research.
Yes, do your research prior. So don't just, I did plenty of research with Jesus. I figured out, we went to the same college. He went to WSU, I went to WSU. So establish some sort of common ground. That's how you connect with anybody, really. Even with establishing relationships whenever you go out. Even events like this. Starting on common ground. Because that's how you really connect with somebody. That's how you can truly relate to that person and feel like, oh yeah, you are a real human. So it's definitely makes a difference when trying to establish that relationship. And if you establish that relationship, they would be much more willing to actually help you out, especially because it's not paid. All right, so at this point, we're going to take kind of the halfway break time, and then we're going to bring up our two next panelists. But before that, any questions at this point for either of these three young individuals? Anybody from the audience? Yes.
I do have a comment, Jessi. Obviously, mentorship is really important for young people in our community. You, probably more than most people here, know that Rotary is chock full of mentors for young people in our community. Our clubs have doctors, they have attorneys, they have judges, and that's just my club, and I know your club probably has more. If young people in our community are interested in getting free advice and getting some free mentorship, come to a Rotary meeting. I don't care which one you go to. You can come to mine, you can go to Jessi's, you can go to Carl's, you can go to everybody's. There's a whole bunch of Rotarians here in the room. Come to a meeting, and if you want to rub elbows with the business leaders in your community, what better place than to go to a service club like Rotary? And I encourage all of you to do it.
Thank you, Rob. Yes, I completely agree, because that's the very first thing that Jesus said, is like, we need to get you into Rotary. And being just, there's that saying, you're the average of the 5 people you most hang around with. Well, it's true. And being at Rotary, you are with very influential people, and it's just that mindset. When you're around that mindset, it really makes a big difference. There are a lot of Rotarians here. I'm in Wenatchee downtown. I believe you're in North.
Wenatchee North.
Yeah. So there's plenty of clubs, different times. That's definitely a really great avenue if you want to start to get involved. And there's countless other service clubs and everything else. I don't want to be biased towards anything. Yes, we have another question.
I was wondering what you guys think is the most exciting thing coming in the next 5 years for the Wenatchee Valley, and the thing you're worried about the most.
I'll answer both of those questions, John. With the Mission Ridge expansion project, I'm I'm really excited and both really nervous about it. I'm excited that my ski area is going to become bigger. There's going to be more parking. There's going to be lodges. There's going to be lots of really great things for the recreation area, including mountain biking. But I'm also nervous that it might ruin my mountain. I've been skiing here for 20 years now, and it's like a family to me. And I am nervous that with all these new people coming in and all this new development, it's gonna ruin the relationship that I have with my managers, my coworkers, and my customers.
And I'll step out and talk about that too. Coming from the educational field, I think the thing that I'm most nervous about is our families and trauma. There's a lot of research coming out about ACEs and trauma-informed support for our students, and the fact that we have a lot of students that need more than just the academic support. They need the social, emotional, the physical, the intellectual. And for me, the excitement, it's twofold, is that we have the East Mountain School District is now working hand in hand with many of our entities, like it's called the Community in Schools program. So now we have people from different programs, coming in and actually servicing our students. We have people from the medical field, psychologists and counselors. So I'm really excited about that, just making sure that we are meeting the needs of our young students and getting the support out there to our families, because we know a lot of our families don't know about it, or maybe just don't realize that it's there, and that we can help our students in that way. So for me, my exciting thing is definitely that, and my fear again is the fact that we have a lot of our students coming into our school systems with trauma, poverty, lack of support at home, and it's difficult because we have a lot of single parents, and just knowing that, remembering that, and being able to move forward and find creative ways to support our community.
Jessi, I'm going to try a question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, Deb.
I'm going to see if I can articulate it in a concise way. But if we think about the World Health Organization's definition of health, which is the complete state of physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease and infirmity, I am passionate about creating healthy communities, but I feel that society has equated health to health care. So my question, and Myra's kind of answered it, that's what triggered my question, but my question to you as young leaders is, where do you see your current roles supporting and improving the health of your communities? And I know each of you, where you're at now, can do that, but I'm curious. And the reason that I ask is Washington State's plan for transforming healthcare was thought up by young thinkers. We don't have a lot of young thinkers at our local table making those changes that need to be changed. And I already know where I would plug you guys in. I'm curious where you think you would plug yourselves in.
I think that we took a really big step this last turn of the year when the healthcare setting went ahead and put providers into areas such as Catholic Family Services. So they went ahead and took a family practice provider, and they put it in with all mental health professionals as well. So a lot of the individuals in the community that are extremely needed population are homeless and are underserved, that are under the poverty line. So they were going to Catholic Family Services for things such as their psych meds and for mental health evaluations and for addiction treatment and stuff like that. Now they can go there, they can still get the treatment that they need, but there also is a family health provider there to help them get their vaccines, get their maybe their ADHD medications, or their tuberculosis treatment, or whatever it is that they need. It's a lot harder for them to get that when they're just going into the ER for their acute issues that they have, or now that they can go into places like Catholic Family Services and get the whole spectrum taken care of. And that's why I'm so infatuated with the nursing realm, is because we're not just taking care of the the issue that's wrong right now. It's the bigger picture, it's the holistic care of the nursing field. And I think that another thing that we need to think about is we need more money in public health. And I think that what you're talking about is we need, our whole entire community needs to be taken care of. And I think one step is more money in public health.
Any others? I think the answer is just that right there. Unfortunately, mental illness and the pay for healthcare system are very incompatible. I had some pretty first-hand experience with that, losing my father to suicide. So there's some real mental illness there, and he, struggled to make ends meet to get his care. So I think those two are just sort of incompatible. So some communities have reached out and kind of like what Aiden said, raised money and provided a community fund for people that are less privileged and don't have access to care like that. And I think when you look at the 200 to 400 homeless people living on the river, the rampant amount of mental health care, the suicide rate is it's pretty ridiculous. A couple a month. You got to look at a solution like that. To look at the same old, and expect people to get insurance or subsidized insurance or a health savings account or whatever. It hasn't worked. The drywall worked.
I think that also there's things out there in the community that people have access to, they just don't know how they have access to. Once again, if we had more public health funding, we could form these access networks to create these opportunities for the underserved.
And that was my next step, to talk about how we can open the doors for our families and not expect them to automatically go there. So, as a community, bringing the community in schools into our schools is really, I think, that opening of the door for our families. We're getting the families in and we're taking care of the whole family versus just the child. And when we have a student in our classroom that is struggling to learn and is acting up, and we're no longer just looking at the child as potentially they have ADHD, we're really doing a deep background check and see what is going on in the home, what is really affecting this child, and going back to again the whole child and the counseling and the support, and again not just the student support but the family support. So I am very thankful for our community and where it's going. I really feel that we're heading in the right direction, and I'm very excited for the next 5 years because I know it's only going to get better. And again, it's having those people in that position where they can support all of our families and reach out to them and give them that information is very important.
Your answer to the question, Josh's original question, made me now think that I look a little bit selfish for saying that. But I think that I take community, and when I'm looking at community, I think when I look at my specific community, I look at just people that are closer to me. But I know that my community is bigger picture. It's the whole entire area. It's the Leavenworth area. It's the Quincy area. It's Ephrata. It's this whole, the Greater Wenatchee Valley. So I think that, looking the bigger picture, like you said, I really agree with you.
We have McKenna Schwab and Jake Martinez. So I thought we were going to have a little bit of bios on the table, but since we don't, let's just do like maybe a quick 2-minute bio, kind of a little bit of your background, McKenna, and so that way they can learn a little bit more about you and what you've been up to.
Okay, so my name is McKenna. I'm a freshman at the Eastman Junior High School. I'm 14 years old. And I live with a rare connective tissue disorder called Larsen syndrome, and it affects my joints, so all my joints are dislocated. I have major instabilities in my spine, and I have a lot of issues with my airways. And having this disability has kind of propelled me to get involved in volunteering. And so in 2011, when I was 8 years old, I had my first project volunteering at Seattle Children's Hospital, where I got all of my treatment. And since then, I've been able to take the plunge and start my own nonprofit called the Max Fire Foundation. And I'm very proud to say that we've raised over $1 million for children and people who can't for kids with special medical conditions, and over 3,000 boys for those organizations.
That's over $1 million. That's a lot of money. All right, Jake, what do you got?
I've not raised $1 million.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
passion early on for taking photos and capturing memories. And it kind of spun out from there, and I started spending summers in LA, working on TV shows. And then graduated, went to college in Tahoe, and just fell in love with how beautiful it is there. And just really fell in love with how the mountscapes and the people there and the community. And then came back here and saw that it was equally as beautiful in the community here as well. And I've kind of been working with businesses to create a better presence online through media and through connecting with the community.
Cool, thank you. So let's start off, McKenna. What was your experience like getting involved with the community and interacting with current community leaders, businesses, and the Greater Wenatchee area? What has been your experience, and what do you see?
It was really positive. Every time that I've got to do a project, I've been able to share my story, and everybody's been really supportive, no matter how old I am. That was, it continues to blow me away year after year. People are still willing to get behind me and support me in my efforts, and I know that without them, that I couldn't have done this. And I'm so thankful that I have amazing community leaders to look up to and to lean on for support, and people, and especially students in the Valley, that I can help get them involved as well. And I think that was really cool that we've been able to bring volunteering and leadership aspect. Just because when I was 8, I didn't see that. I think it's just I started babbling. That I've been able to lean on community leadership support is very important to me, and I'm grateful, like I said, that we have such amazing community leaders that are so willing to support youth leadership and philanthropic efforts.
Has there been one or two key people that have particularly impacted you or your life?
Definitely, my parents, especially, they took complete trust in me. They believed in me when I was 8, and I started doing these projects. I did a bake sale, and they were like, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to support you however we can. And also, Dr. Ping, I don't know if you guys know him, he's the dentist at Wenatchee Pediatric Dentistry, and every year he's continually supported me, and we use his location for our yearly annual projects, and he's very involved in volunteer opportunities. That I'm super grateful that I can call him a friend and a partner in this, because he's given me so many opportunities to grow these projects.
That's awesome. Jake, has there been what was your experience like, and who has been kind of a leader or a person in the community that has made a particular impactful experience in your life?
I kind of grew up in Leavenworth, and I knew I wanted to end up there, and I never really saw a job that I liked there, that I would see myself in when I was like 50. So I tried to create my own, and I really saw a disconnect between businesses in the community and like their online presence. So I started to work with a couple of key businesses in Leavenworth to connect them on social media and on the internet with the community, and just make it more cohesive. And a key person were my parents, just really like pushed me in different areas, and they saw where I wanted to go, and believed in me also.
Cool, thank you. McKenna, what can current community leaders do in order to help young individuals your age or around your age? What can they do, or even the community in general? What can they do to help young potential individuals like yourself?
To continue to support programs like Youth United. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but it gives students an opportunity to get their varsity letter in volunteering, and I think that's fantastic because I'm not an athletic person, so getting the opportunity to get my letter is something that I'm very passionate about, is super important. And also continuing to support things like that through the school. So like the Senate program at Eastmont is amazing. And I attended the leadership program. I have some friends over there in Wenatchee that are doing it. Just continuing to support things like that so the kids don't maybe know where to look in the community, can find it in their schools, and it can create better leaders and show them the qualities and skills that leader needs.
I think current business leaders really need to find those key people within their business that have potential, and then be a mentor to them, like I said previously, and really guide them in the right direction, and push them to do things and let them make decisions, and live with those consequences, and like justify those decisions that they're making early on, so that later on when it's just them, they are able to do that confidently.
Okay, thank you. McKenna, what does the next generation of leaders look like? How are you different, and how did you do it differently than what current leaders are doing, or what would you do differently?
I think that one difference is kind of the obvious one. I'm a lot younger than the community leaders right now, but I think that as like you said, the next generation of leaders is coming up, I think it's going to be really cool to get new ideas from a fresh point of view, but for also the young leaders to learn, to see when we should learn from the current community leaders, but see when we should give them ideas, so that the young leaders themselves can grow into the current community.
We grew up with so much information at our fingertips through the internet that I feel like we grew up and we knew exactly what we wanted to do, exactly how we wanted to get there. And I think that's going to be the difference, is that we know exactly where we want to be. We're going to push to get there, regardless of what's happening. And then we're also very eco-friendly. And just know that we need to push to save the planet. We need to push to reduce waste. And I think that's going to be a key difference between us and the previous leadership.
McKenna, what challenges did you face when reaching out to the community? And how did you overcome those challenges?
I think that one challenge about living in the Wenatchee Valley is that we are kind of a small community, so we might not get the same opportunities as big cities would get. But I think that even though we are living in a small community, we're very supportive. People that live in the community are very supportive of what we want to do, and I think if we continue to push things like I said earlier, the leadership programs and the volunteer programs, we can continue to support that. That's how we're going to.
There's a lot of people moving here from Seattle, and rightfully so, but it's starting to cause a disconnect between who's living here, between the people from bigger cities and the people who've been here for 20 plus years now. And I think at a certain point we need to start connecting everyone, and there seems to be starting to be sub-communities within communities, and it'd be cool if we could start bringing all this together.
Awesome. And as far as to kind of do that question again, in the next 5 years, what are you excited about, and what are you concerned about?
Back to what I just said, I think it's scary how many people are moving here from Seattle, and how many people just have houses here that aren't lived in. And in Lake Tahoe, that was a huge issue. I mean, you walk down entire blocks and there'd be no one living in their houses because they're all for people in San Francisco. And it's a scary thought that could happen here.
While you were down living in Lake Tahoe, did you have any ideas, or were they already working on any potential solutions, or anything that comes to mind?
Not much, but it's the difference between the people who move here and the people who have been living here is passion for the place. And in order for those people who are just moving here to understand the love for it that we all have, I think we're going to start having meet them and having community meetings in order to drive community, family, and bring them all together. Something along those lines.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's kind of the whole goal of even this. This is starting those types of conversation, and hopefully that could start gaining some momentum to how can we better connect. And right now it's dealing with connecting on a generational level. So that adds a little bit more complexity when we start dealing with connecting with people that are not originally from here, and it's happening at a pretty significant pace. And how we deal with that is certainly going to be challenging, but I'm sure with this community, I mean, I received nothing but support from this community, so I fully trust that we will figure it out, because we have a lot of the right people in this community, and they've been very supportive. It's just a matter of putting our heads together. No, there's no one person that's going to be able to make it work and be able to make this place better. It's really gonna, like Myra said, it's gonna take a village, right? So how can we better do that? Better connect, better communicate, and work together for that common goal. So we will now open it up for questions from you guys. So feel free to ask questions, and even for anybody else. Any questions for David? Yes, David.
In your path to being a leader, what barriers did you encounter that you wish or you think that could have been different? What could have us in the room have done to could we do in the future to remove barriers for young people trying to be better leaders?
I think it comes down to the age gap and letting the younger generation trusting the younger generation to make the right decision. Guiding them to make that right decision, but allowing them to make that for themselves, so in the future that they're able to do that on their own.
Yeah, I kind of what Jake said, just trusting them to, if you were going to give them an opportunity through like an internship or a volunteer opportunity, trusting them to make right decisions, but also giving them a chance to prove themselves and giving them an opportunity to learn so that they can gain skills for their future, which is going to be all of our future. So just giving them opportunities to become a better leader.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it takes a significant amount of empathy and humility to be able to ask those types of questions. And even people, whether it's a current leadership position or not, it does take a lot of empathy and knowing, like, what ideas do you have? And just simply like what you just did, that's exactly what we need, but a lot more of it. And I don't think it happens enough, and I don't know if it's not, setting ego aside, not being humble enough. I don't know what it is, but I think it does take somebody to be like, you know what, maybe I don't know all the answers. I'm not saying that we all do, but I think it does take a two-way communication. I may come up with an idea, but if we can get around all together, I completely have faith that that idea is going to be 10 times better simply by talking with all of you guys. So it's communication, it's asking those questions. I don't know if that looks like in a group setting or whatever the case may be, but it's definitely asking a lot more questions and deploying some empathy, not only to youth, but also on diversity on a cultural basis as well, because that's been a huge thing. And people approach me all the time too. It's just like, how can we engage the Hispanic Latino community? And it's just like, it's a really tough question, but I tend to get it a lot simply because they say that they ran into this issue. How can they better engage the community? And I had to really think about it a lot, and I still haven't found a true answer. The closest that I've been able to get is, you are defining community involvement, community engagement, and even leadership potentially by your definition. You are not like a teacher. A teacher, the true talent of a teacher is not that you know all this stuff, is that you're able to connect with the students and meet them where they are at. And that part is, I think, the true talent of a teacher, because you're able to communicate, connect, and empathize with those students at their level, so that way they understand. You're not talking from up here, but you're connecting with them at their level. So that, I think, would go a long, long way. I know that question didn't come up. I'm only saying it because that's the question that I always get anytime I'm in a group or committee. It always comes up inevitably. So I just thought I would put it out there. That's the best that I got right now. But yeah. Oh man. Yes. Let's start there.
For both you
what role has social media played in your success in either raising money or in business, and what do you see social media as in the future?
Social media has been amazing. Social media has given me an opportunity to share my story, not just here in Wenatchee, but all over the country. And it's amazing what social media can do, because just one post goes everywhere, and I've been able to use that, and I have my website, and people can donate from wherever. And I think that through social media, everything's becoming bigger, and I think that that's really important in young leadership, that we learn how to use social media as a tool.
And there's starting to be communities. There's local communities, and then there's online communities too. And that really creates a bond too, where people who follow, say like the Leavenworth page, they're a part of that community because they see those photos and they see the content coming out of there, and they start to fall in love with the place too. And so if they want to help, or there's something that comes up, then they can be a part of that community also. And it's just a broader reach than what it would normally be.
Yes, Ted.
So, kind of on that note, and Jake, you said something earlier in one of your comments about communication and connection, right? And you guys are the youth of everything's electronic, everything's online. I'm a generation of dial phone, right? Mm-hmm. So my generation, I struggle with, we are so connected, we're disconnected, right? It is so easy to shoot 17 emails to 17 different people or networks and then get inundated with information back that I feel in my world I'm doing a lot of telling out, but not necessarily hearing. How do we bridge that gap between, because Myra said listening is a key. We kind of have forgotten to listen to each other, to sit in community and listen. So how do we bridge that gap between the old ways of sitting in circle and conversation and the new way of communicating, which does get out to the broader world, but it just makes my life crazy busy, unbelievable that I work 10, 12 hours a day just trying to keep up with the conversation. And I don't know if you have an answer, but I would be curious to know if you have thoughts.
I don't know if there is a real answer yet, but because we kind of grew up with it, I feel like we have a better ability to define those lines between the online, the in-person, and everything in between. And bridging that gap, I think, because it's becoming less of a 9-to-5 workplace and more of you make your schedule and you're held to that same standard that a 9-to-5 would be. It's more of a flexible schedule. And I think that might help too, because then you don't get overwhelmed in the beginning, you don't get overwhelmed at night when you're supposed to be off work and you're still getting emails and you're still getting all that. And I think just finding the balance between it will be a little bit easier with younger generation.
Yeah, I think kind of what Jason there isn't really an exact answer, but like you said, finding the balance, kind of meeting in the middle, trying to learn how to use the internet and email and social media and things like that, but also teaching the younger generation that it's not all going to be online, that we need to learn how to have face-to-face conversations and listen to people's stories and what they have to say, not just over email, because I think that email is great and texting and social media, that's all great, but it's not going to compare to actually talking to somebody face-to-face and hearing what they have to say.
Yes, Rob.
So I'm curious your take on this. Our country is a melting pot of people from different backgrounds and different ethnic groups, and I think in order for our community to move forward and be a cohesive group working towards a common goal, it doesn't make sense to me to have two chambers of commerce. And I've never understood that since I've lived here for 9 years. And I'd be curious, your take as the future leaders, why do we have two chambers and shouldn't we merge them so that we're all working towards the same goals?
I think we should merge them. I mean, it's all Westlake Valley, but I'm still really young, and so I'm still learning stuff about the world. But I do agree. I think that it's the Wenatchee Valley, not East Wenatchee, Wenatchee, Cajun, or Leavenworth. I do agree that we should merge them because we're one big valley. So.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to merge them. And beyond that, I think it'd be a great idea if we could have a group above that for all the different communities in the Greater Wenatchee Valley, because there is a big disconnect, it seems, between Leavenworth, Cashmere, Wenatchee. Like, we don't see, I'm from Leavenworth, and I never hear any politics about Wenatchee or Cashmere, and it'd be cool if we could have one cohesive group working together for all of them. Something along those lines. I don't know how it would work, but we might be able to figure something out.
Yeah, like one over all of them, and then they can work with individuals and have different parts of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm involved with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and I'm more on the side for the scholarships. So I'm the president of the North Central Washington Hispanic Empowerment Fund, which is its own 501c3, separate from the Hispanic Chamber. And I was curious about that too, and why is it separate, and why is it different, and how can we better work together? So we're actually right now in conversations with Shiloh, and we've been working. I think she had a family meeting, and I know she's been in Olympia, I think, a time or two. So we're actually in conversations with her. I mean, there's no guarantees on anything, but I get along very well with the chamber. I'm a Wenatchee Chamber ambassador, and I'm looking to where's that bridge. And I mean, I don't completely understand it because it's only been a year and a half that I've been more heavily involved with it. So I'm curious, the same as you are, is why is it different? And why are they separate? And are there any strengths or weaknesses by combining them? You know, are we losing something? Maybe it's a fear of losing identity. And I'm not exactly sure. But I'm definitely curious, and I want to ask those questions to Shiloh and to the rest of the people that actually have been on board, because from the sense that I get, it's been more of the feelings of other board members that have been on the Hispanic Chamber in the past, and I don't know if they share the same feelings, and why is it, you know, I don't really have a great answer for that. I'm still diving into
What you
it.
said is perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
So I have a question. So both of you have been identified as leaders, whether you recognize that or not. So as young leaders, what do you hope by your actions and what your passions are, what do you hope to inspire in those younger than you and in those that may be older?
For me, since I started these projects, my goal has always been to inspire others to make a difference. And now as I'm getting older and I'm learning more, I've grasped the concept a little bit more. And my goal has been to inspire others to find their own path, because we're not all the same. We're not all going to fit in the same norms. And I hope that I can just inspire people to find their own path and to live without living on those paths. Because, like I said, we're all going to be different, and that's a really good thing, because if we're all the same, that'd be really boring.
The images that I capture, I always hope that people see them and find something within them to inspire them to go make change, or go do something, go protect the environment, go drink a beer, go do whatever they feel like they need to do that's inspired from that. Hopefully, one day that will actually come to fruition.
Is there anything in particular that you are passionate by that your one message is getting across?
I mean, I love taking photos of nature, and I really hope that one day one of these photos will inspire someone enough that we can actually start protecting the planet instead of still hurting it. And every day you see stuff online, and it's just like negative news, and I hope one day we finally see something positive. And we are starting to see spots of positiveness, but hopefully some image out there, some essay or blog online will bring positive action towards that.
Yeah, for me, it's more lifelong learning and inspiring that continuous development and continuously ask those questions to further learning in any way, for sure. And if I get inspired that through whatever, a podcast, a video, a blog, whatever that is, I think mentor and be mentored at the same time. I don't think you need to wait to be at a certain place. I think one can always be learning. I mean, I'm sure those of you who are parents or aunts or uncles, I'm sure you guys have learned from those, even when those babies, when they were young, you learn from them. I didn't even understand this way that you could learn from a baby or even your child. So I think always inspiring that learning, no matter in what place of life you may be at. Any other questions? Yeah. Sweet. Well, thank you guys for making the drive up here and being in this beautiful scenery. And thank you again, Mission Ridge and the Wenatchee World, for sponsoring this event. Hopefully, this kind of starts those conversations with those in the community. And we welcome any further questions by email. And I'll be posting this up on my website, just jessimendoza.com. And so feel free to log on there and check it out or share it if you'd like. Thank you.